Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's Third Thursday event. Our topic this month is on disaster aware and its relationship to the Maui wildfires. Before we begin, I would like to open up with a few housekeeping rules. Please keep your microphones on mute while the presenter is presenting and save your questions until the very end. If at any point of this presentation, you can put your questions in the chat box and we will address them at the end of the presentation. Today's presenter is Clay Miller, who is speaking on behalf of Adam Gorman, who cannot be present today. Clay Miller specializes in the application of geospatial information, geography, science, and emerging technologies to disaster risk reduction activities. As a senior disaster services analyst and liaison to the United States Indo-Pacific Command, Mr. Miller utilizes the capabilities and technology of the Pacific Disaster Center to make advancements and address critical areas, including humanitarian assistance and disaster response, climate change impacts, women, peace and security, and fragility. Miller holds an executive master's degree in emergency and disaster management from Georgetown University and a Bachelor of Science in Geography with an emphasis in Geographic Information Systems and Geology from Portland State University. Kalei, you can start your presentation, and thank you for joining.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, and also thank you, NDPBC, for giving PDC, allowing us to share a little bit about who we are and just some of the work that we've been doing. A lot of partnerships and throughout the years that PDC has been established, things like this is very good to continue those partnerships and being able to share the work that we all do to evidently help and save lives. So yeah, just again wanted to say thank you for that. And today I wanted to share with you a little bit about the PDC, the Pacific Disaster Center, kind of who we are, what we do, and then introduce our DisasterAWARE technology, as well as kind of sharing a little bit about some of the work that we've done recently with the fires on Maui. So yeah, I just wanted to share my screen. Great. All right. So first off, I just wanted to again, who's the PDC, or the Pacific Disaster Center? We're an applied research organization managed by the University of Hawaii, supporting disaster management decision makers all over the world. And the idea was conceived by the late Senator Daniel Inouye after Hurricane Iniki hit the island of Kauai in 1992. And the need for access and innovative, more effective information resources for disaster preparedness and response. That's kind of the idea of what was needed after the devastation that took place on Kauai. And in 1995, PDC opened its doors. We're headquartered on the island of Maui, in the town of Kihei. And then we have various different locations where we're kind of scattered throughout the world. I'm located on the island, supporting PDC's line of efforts for U.S. Indo-Pacific Command here on island. I'm originally from Maui and was at PDC headquarters for most of my time that I've been at PDC, and then I recently moved here. So again, yeah, we have folks kind of scattered all over the world, kind of supporting PDC's mission. With a team, about 50 that specializes in emergency and disaster management, hazard modeling, advanced analytics, data science, GIS. So those are the types of things that you'll be able to see kind of shortly in my presentation as I kind of go through a little bit about what we do. So over 25 years, partnering with various different stakeholders, here in the Pacific. Pacific's in our name, but we do have a global mission. So our mission is to provide evidence-based research, science, information, and advanced technology to improve disaster risk reduction policies, practices, and humanitarian assistance. And as mentioned, our name has Pacific in it because that's kind of where we originally we're focused on, but we do work all around the world. So I would say Asia Pacific region and beyond. So working hand in hand with various different partners to reduce disaster risk and protect lives and livelihoods. And here's a picture of our executive director to the left, Dr. Ray Shirkadai, and then the former executive director of the AHA Center in the ASEAN Center for Humanitarian Assistance, Ms. Adelina Kamal. So this is just a picture of just some of our partners that we've worked with. So again, we are partners at a glance, working side by side with various different, U.S. and different agencies, as well as and also humanitarian relief organizations. So, as I mentioned, not just here in the Pacific, but we've recently completed work and assessments, out in the American Caribbean, out in Africa, as well as some of our NGOs up in Europe as well. And again, what our mission and essentially what we want to do is, build that bridge between the science community and academia and decision makers. Being able to take an integrated approach, utilizing scientifically vetted technology, such as various different types of observations and data systems to help provide different products for various different modeling and capabilities, and basically provide information for decision makers that they can easily make, rather than looking through some of the real technical aspects. They're able to have that information available to them to make data-driven decisions. And we do this through our DisasterAWARE platform, which I'll be giving a demonstration of. Some of you will be able to get access to it, but we do have a platform called DisasterAWARE on the left, which is our public, free, which kind of shares real-time hazard information around the world. The middle, DisasterAWARE Pro, is what I'll be demoing today. It's a platform for emergency management practitioners and humanitarian communities. So if you're kind of working in that specific field, or your focus is like disaster risk reduction, you're able to get an account. And then we do have other custom platforms that target specific audiences. So for example, the AHA Center in ASEAN has a platform for their area of responsibility. So focusing on the ASEAN countries, looking at specific data from ASEAN member states, et cetera. And we also do have a version for EOD, US government, which is what I work on extensively, called Rapid. So if you have a .mil account, you're able to get access to that. So DisasterAWARE has many different key features that I'll be showing. This is kind of just a quick overview, but including global hazard early warning, hazard monitoring, various different types of risk intelligence, being able to kind of use all that information for all phases of disaster management, whether it's responding to an event, or even before that, looking at potential hazard risks, and then also looking at specific ways to potentially use for mitigation. Lots of materials that I'll mention shortly in the demo, but here's kind of just like a quick overview of some of the things that we have. Also a very large data catalog of geospatial data that you'll see shortly. So this is good just for your situational awareness, and then also good for understanding when it's time to respond to a disaster, understanding very specific infrastructure that may be exposed, et cetera. And we use all that geospatial data to put into our modeling capabilities, which I wanted to mention our all hazard impact model called AIM. It's a PDC proprietary model, but it estimates exposure of population, capital, key infrastructure, and specific humanitarian needs down to a 30 by 30 meter level. And I know right now it's a little hard to tell just based off of the PowerPoint, but you'll see in the demo how that information, when you're able to click on a specific area, getting that information of, what are those specific exposure, people or capital, that information is really important, when a disaster occurs. So this is just some of our modeling capabilities that we have and that's available. And you'll see some of the products that we're able to generate. So by using PDC's AIM model, we also work closely with various different partners. So this is just an example of a product that gets created with collaboration of UN OCHA, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, and then also World Food Program. So we collaborate to create this kind of joint analysis disaster exposure product. And this is used by the humanitarian partners and national governments worldwide to effectively respond to a disaster. So when a disaster occurs, the international community is looking at, what is the impact? Is it something that a country can, are they able to manage, or if it's going to be an international response? What are the number of people that are exposed? What are the key infrastructure of the people that are exposed? What are the breakdowns of the key needs that they'll need? So the number of food or shelter or water. So this kind of provides a really a quick analysis, and this is based off of for a tropical cyclone, it's based off of the advisory as it's approaching a population, or if it's like an earthquake, it's based off of the real severe shaking, based off of that shake map that gets produced during an earthquake. So this is just one of the things that we're able to we're able to create as far as products and utilizing some of the models. Another thing that PDC does as well is we also have an advanced analytics team, applied science team that looks at various different complex security and humanitarian assistance mission challenges. So throughout the world, our applied research team conducts various different assessments. We're looking at things like risk and vulnerability at a global level. We also recently looked at understanding the fragility of a specific region. So that's something that we've done with US Indo-PACOM, looking at various different women, peace and security, understanding gender responsiveness, based off of what are the drivers of gender inequality and gender empowerment. So being able to look at that in a report or complex like composite index view, as well as recently we've worked with the Center for Excellence in Disaster Management, CFE, on the climate change impacts, looking at Indo-PACOM specifically. And then also we have another program called the National Preparedness Baseline Assessment, which is a collaborative, stakeholder-driven report that looks at the risk and vulnerability of a specific country. So not just the hazard exposure, but also what are the drivers of vulnerability, and then also looking at disaster management analysis. So how the specific government kind of how they approach disaster management, and then what are the ways that they can potentially implement and have an action plan for to better themselves for disaster reduction. So That program supports the commitment under the UN Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, and last year actually, PDC was awarded the UN Sasakawa Award for that program that looked at building resilience through a multi-hazard approach. So I know it's a lot of different things that I just mentioned, but I'll also mention that all that data and information is available in DisasterAWARE. So you'll be able to not only see, where hazards are occurring in around the world, but also you can look at, PDC's various different advanced analytic assessments. So. Right. Oh yeah, sorry. I think I skipped a slide. So this is the NDPVA. So this is the process. Again, we look at various different, risk and vulnerability within the country, understanding the disaster management capabilities, and then we provide an action plan to institutionalize some of those results and planning for the future. So we've done that for 30 countries around the world. In Latin American, Caribbean, Oceania, Southeast Asia, and then also in Africa. So I think we have a bunch of other countries coming in through as well. Okay. So I'm gonna actually pause this and then actually demo the system first, and then we'll jump into the fires. So DisasterAWARE is available again for emergency management practitioners. When you get a login, or you make a request for a login, you'll be able to, if you use your dot or your specific either organization email, I'd recommend using that. The reason why is because we do have a user admin team that goes through and kind of vets kind of who you are. So the system is freely available for emergency practitioners, but we do want to keep it, for those that are working specifically for, emergency management or disaster risk reduction specific. So there are many different, there are thousands of users. So yeah, just wanted to share with you. If you do try to apply, please use your official email. So this is DisasterAWARE. It looks like a basic mapping kind of platform application. As you can see, there's all these dots that are occurring all over the world, and what these are various different hazards that are occurring. So these are not only natural hazards, but also geopolitical hazards as well. So our team, we have a data science team that works with various different data sources and scientifically vetted sources to bring in various different advisories and updates on where these specific hazards are occurring. For example, from NOAA or JTWC for typhoons, as well as NASA, for example. So we have the automation process where whenever there's a specific advisory, that gets added into the system. And then we also have a team that utilizes to comb through various different accredited news sources and other sources that don't get picked up with that automation process. So we're able to bring in hazards through that way as well. So these are hazards that are occurring all around the world. So I just wanted to share with you the flooding and landslide hazards actually are coming from NASA. NASA's mother of all models. We recently collaborated with them to release, and this is flood hazards, flood and landslide hazards at a sub basin watershed level, and this is the first global alerting for landslides and flooding. So as you can see, if you click on a specific hazard, you can get a little bit more info. Kind of shows you that sub basin of where the potential floods are potentially going to be affected, and then the description brings out what I mentioned about that AIM model. We're able to get the exposure of that specific area. So understanding, what the flood is, or where the floods are potentially going to be occurring. What are the number of people that are potentially impacted, the number of households, as well as kind of the built up capital or infrastructure. Each of the hazards, if it's over land or going to hit land, you can generate this event brief. And what this opens up is kind of like a dashboard view of that specific hazard. So give it a minute to load, but here we're able to see the hazard exposure, and then also the breakdown of the population, of those population households, who's the most vulnerable, broken down into the various different age ranges. So children, elderly are most vulnerable, and then also what are the key hospitals that are potentially in that specific impact area. Also the schools, as well as the capital, again, the capital of the built up environment in that area. And then also of that vulnerable population, what is the breakdown of key needs. So these are based off of the vulnerable population. The key needs are from the UN sphere guidelines, and that's the guidelines on what each human would need as far as calories and water and shelter and waste. So that's from sphere, the sphere guidelines. If there's a hazard over the US, those come from FEMA guidelines, which are slightly different, but those cater towards the US and FEMA's understanding of how they classify or understand the breakdown for key needs for population. So other information of that area, what's the current weather. We do generate, like as advisories happen, specific products, so key situational awareness products, and then as well as if there's a specific event that in that specific area that is of interest, trying to understand the historical hazards in that area as well. So that kind of just summarizes just a little bit about hazards. I just wanted to share that because we do have a lot of information of hazards, and you're able to set up your own notifications. So if you want a specific area and you're looking at specific hazards, you're able to get notifications for custom hazard alerts. That can be either sent to you on your phone or through email. So good for tracking loved ones, or if you're interested in a specific area. I think my hazards are only really set up to the Pacific and Southeast Asia, because that's where I work. They're really close to each other. So yeah, that kind of shows a little bit of hazards. I also wanted to mention, if you look in, this is the layer view. So in here, you'll see various different data layers that are organized into various different themes. So here, you can find specific hazards that are being that are occurring around the world, and then as well as some of those advanced analytics reports and some of the raw data for the reports that's available in here as well. So we are looking to clean this up a little bit. I mean, there's 7,000 layers in here, and that's based from various different projects that we've worked on, collaborations with partners. Yeah, it's kind of keep adding to it, and we're looking to kind of make it a little bit more simplify it for many different people for their specific use case. So that's just kind of a quick overview on that. I did want to mention in the global layers, again, we have information on the advanced analytics the projects that we've worked on. So this is an example for the climate change analysis that I've actually worked really close on with the Center for Excellence. And here we looked at understanding climate risk for the Indo-Pacific countries. So we took a composite index approach, and we looked at various different climate hazards, and then as well as understanding the socioeconomic kind of profile of a specific country. So understanding, what makes, a country vulnerable based off of, various different thematic themes. So, for example, we looked at, access to information as an index. Being able to understand, just as a baseline, how a specific country vulnerability for these different thematic themes. So just wanted to just share that with you. And all that information is again available down to that index level. So if you wanted to actually like click on the layer, I'll just use female to male labor ratio. You're able to kind of get a visual of kind of how you're looking at it, how it's being classified. For each layer in the system, if you click on this eye right here, you're able to get a comprehensive metadata and description of that specific data layer. So not all the data that is added into DisasterAWARE is PDCs. We work closely with, again, various different partners. For this for example is coming from the World Bank. So if you actually click on the full metadata, you can actually click on the link to the World Bank to get that raw data. So if you want to use it for your analysis or kind of understand, the metrics of how, the index was created, this is how you can do it. Right. So this is just summarizes a little bit of DisasterAWARE, how it's being used. You can see there's a lot of information for those that want to understanding of what currently is happening all over the world, but also you can use that information or other information to be able to get an understanding of a specific area or country. So and this kind of folds into what I wanted to kind of build up to for the fires. So PDC, we focus with many different partners all over the world, and for a disaster to happen in your own backyard is very something that none of us expected. And what we were able to do is we're able to leverage some of PDC's core capabilities and technology, our advanced models and analytics, and also our partnerships to basically provide information to the county and to the response right when the fires occurred. So I guess I'll just share I don't have I just have one slide. We just put this really together. But yeah, so during the fire, PDC, we worked really close with various different government agencies. For the last month, we've had a team at the EOC working with Maui County, NEMA, Maui Emergency Management Organization, to provide situational awareness products. Some of the products you may have seen on the news. This is kind of the first time that we got to see some of our products being able to support our family and friends on island. So one of the first things that when the fires occurred, our team was in touch with Maui County, and there was little information available on specifically the devastated area. Understanding how many people are exposed, what is the the number of people, and of the buildings that were destroyed, was it primarily residential, was it these are all questions that really unfolded really quickly. And there wasn't a real easy answer. So what we were able to do is we were able to create some of the products that we generally would create working closely with the county to, get information from what they had, and then kind of match them together with what we have, and then provide just some situational awareness products. So this, for example, on the screen, the product that shows the various different exposure, the for various different structures, how many acres are burned. What we would do was utilize some of PDC's capabilities and partnerships, being able to access imagery from INDOPACOM, being able to work with the various different agencies that were at the EOC as well, to give them information so they can do their job. So in addition, we also provided numerous different products, daily operational pictures, maps, infographics on the bottom right. I know it's a little hard to see, but PDC provided some of those, working closely with the Joint Information team at the EOC to provide just basic understanding of what information was needed for those that are doing the response. So it was very, and just this is just my opinion, it was very hectic. But being able to kind of work together and try to provide that information, I know that our time there was very meaningful. We did actually step back our response as things go from life-saving measures to now the recovery. So we're still providing analysis and information, but our role at PDC, our PDC's role at the EOC kind of has slowed down, but we're still working closely with them. I made a map for one of our partners at the EOC yesterday. So I know that's probably not gonna the support is definitely not gonna die down. There's a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of support. I do want to mention, or just to show you that how the data was being accessed and being used. So DisasterAWARE was on the screen at the EOC, being used as a common operating tool. As data and information was being updated, we would update that data in the system, and that system the system was on the screen. So you get an understanding of what where things are, where assets were located. Things have kind of trimmed down since the shift in the tempo has changed. But here you're able to see various different this, for example, this is the burn scar for Lahaina. We're able to bring in imagery from various different commercial satellites. So before Google updated their API, so if you go on Google Maps for now, you can actually see the devastation. We're able to bring this into DisasterAWARE weeks before, so they can get a kind of an understanding of where the potential area was, and this is actually the day after. So this is taken on the 9th of August. So so you can actually zoom in and kind of get an understanding of data with the overlay. Also too, we have infrastructure data. We actually got this burn vehicles data from NDTVC. They did an analysis on where different cars were parked and burned based off of satellite imagery. So we'll layer that we're able to showcase and share with our partners at DOC. And then also to understanding the structure status. This is something that still they're still looking at and making updates and understanding what areas and what structures were destroyed. Understanding outside the burn zone, there's areas that were damaged by winds. So being able to kind of look at that from a mapping and a geospatial reference, it was very important. And then also to understanding specific areas of cultural sites, different flight restrictions for the area. If you have a drone or if you're flying a plane, or a smaller plane aircraft, you can't fly over there because there's a flight restriction. So all this information was key for those that were doing assessments and doing work and being able to plan appropriately. So all this information is available in the system. Yeah, so that's kind of where I wanted to stop and maybe open up for any questions. DisasterAWARE, there's a lot of again different tools and a lot of different resources. So if you do apply for access to the system, there's a lot of tutorials, some kind of quick reference guides. But if there are any questions, I'll give my contact information and you guys can reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. But yeah, I'll open it up to any questions. Thank you.
Kalei, thank you so much for your presentation and the tutorial of DisasterAWARE. I know a lot of our audience are first responders and emergency managers, so they would be really benefit from understanding and using this tool. We have we have a first question from Amy. Go ahead, Amy.
I put it in the chat, but I'll read it to you. I'm just curious about the percentage of collaboration between your data resource team and the partners you work with. And I'm just wondering on how much of the partners actually work with different organizations versus people just giving you their data. And additionally, how much data does your credibility team typically have to comb through for a major event such as Maui?
Well, that's a great question. So a lot of the partnerships that we've had, it's been long-lasting partnerships, and we continuously work with them. We do have pretty rigorous data standards. So any information that we do bring in, whether it's from the advanced analytics projects, or if it's like for a disaster response, we do make sure that we're able to validate and verify based off of the data that's available. So we definitely have a process to make sure that there are some checks and balances and also validation to ensure that the data is as accurate as it is. For the response specifically, we did get a lot of information and data that was coming from open source, coming from county. So we did have to kind of play that manager role, and that's something that that there wasn't much data governance and being able to just bring in data into the system. So that was somebody at the EOC working with that planning department, or working with the water department, and actually vetting and verifying the data on the ground. So in a disaster response, that's very important as well, because they're looking at that, they're trying to make decisions. So we definitely utilize our presence when we were there to make sure that understanding the data that's in the system is up to date, and is the source acknowledges that that's the latest and greatest data. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you so much.
Our second question comes from Dawn. Did you find a disparity between structures on data bases versus aerials?
So right now, I'm assuming this is regarding the fires. So the structure data initially was done by the county, and they used aerial imagery, but now there's teams actually going out there and verifying on the ground. I think, for example, a structure on a property sometimes was defined as, if there's multiple structures on a property, does that count as one, or does it count as, so those are the kind of questions, and you get kickback from people that are verifying at the fire department, kind of flagging it and be like, hey, we only counted 17 structures up in Kula, why does it say 20? So we we kind of verify and work with work with the county, work with people that are on the ground to verify. But initially, when the disaster happened, and we're able to get imagery, that's all we had, because nobody was really on the ground verifying anything. So it kind of just at least provided kind of a quick overview on what was available at the time.
We have a question from Michael in regards to mapping infrastructure assets. Were you tracking anything besides schools and hospitals? And if so, where does that data come from?
Yeah, so we have a very large data catalog of critical key infrastructure, critical lifeline infrastructure. Sorry. Besides schools and hospitals globally, we have abundance of airports, ports, and shelters at a global level. But then we do break down, specifically based on like various different countries that we work with. So we'll work with like the Ministry of Health, for example. Just use Vietnam, for example. We'll work with them to get kind of a for the analysis and for the team, for the projects that we've done, to get the country specific accredited data. And then for those areas that we don't have, we actually will fill in based off of like OpenStreetMap and crowdsource information as well. But for those like major global data sets, we work closely with for ports, for example, the World Port Index. They provide all the port information for ports that have ports all over the world. So we're able to bring that in as a source, and then kind of verifying with the country source as well. So we do a lot of verifying and if points are overlaid on each other, we try to kind of manage and just to ensure that if they're the same or if they're different, and then if not, reach out to a provider or the data source and ask about it. So I hope that answers your question.
If I might have a quick follow-up, if it's all right. If you're looking at things like your impact modeling or economic impact modeling, are you tracking any other kinds of infrastructure, like, for instance, cell phone towers or the energy grid or water and wastewater systems, or is it strictly focusing on the things that you just mentioned?
For the exposure piece, we don't track that in the initial analysis, but we do have that information, pretty extensively around the world. Actually, I can probably show you, but yeah, we do. So under global layers, we have an abundance of infrastructure data. So nuclear power plants, for example, very dams, submarine cables. So that global information is in there. And then if you go into like some of the country data, so these are just countries that we've worked on or through various different projects. For example, here you'll be able to find a little bit more on like various different communication towers, power infrastructure, some of those like various different utilities and transportation government facilities. So these aren't necessarily added into those initial like event brief analysis. So these kind of only look at specifically hospitals and schools. But if there is like a major event, we're able to kind of plot that on the map and be able to show that information, of that specific, hazard exposed area. So just not yet in the initial analysis.
Hi, Clay. We have a question from Dave. Let's see. He's asking, how was the berm perimeter determined, and was it generated with the assistance from AI routines?
So for the burn perimeter, the initial burn perimeters were taken, and this is in partnership with the county. So they used satellite imagery to basically trace out the various different areas. I know that there's been some analysis out there that showed or using AI capabilities for damage assessments and even burn scars as well. But we worked with the county to bring in their data specifically. So
I'm asking because I did that same thing, actually. I traced out the burn area, probably in a much less precise way, but I did it for some of the mapping I was doing. And there's one area in particular that I'm curious about because of the way the fire propagated. And I'm kind of waiting to see if there's a more detailed fire perimeter map that is generated to see if I can match my work up with that. So because I don't have AI working on mine, but I was wondering if there was any way that we could use AI to maybe capture some of the minutiae in the burn area. So because when I traced it out, yeah, it generally agrees with what the county did, but there's one area that I don't have any there where there was little to no burning within the perimeter itself. And but I haven't been able to figure out whether or not the fire actually went across that area or whether it jumped at a different location. So I'm waiting to see what you guys say before I make a statement about that.
yeah, I'll just share again. This is just what we have from the county. I mean, I know we've had some talks, just internally from PDC, utilizing imagery and change detection, for mapping out the burn scars. But yeah, from what we have specifically, it seems like it was just trees.
Thank you very much. I just on a quick follow-up, you wouldn't happen to know how the fire, the what's the name of that place where the Safeway is, that whole shopping area?
The cannery mall.
Do you happen to know how the fire progressed around that area?
I know that there's been some talks for PDC to potentially look at, and kind of analyze, how the fire and the winds were that day. But I can't, to be honest, I don't know off the top of my head. But if there is information, I know that we're collectively gathering and being able to to provide that, because as far as like the investigation goes for the fire, I think it's still ongoing. Being able to bring in information and whether it's weather information or whether it's like satellite Earth observation of imagery. Those are the things that are kind of in the talks right now for that.
Thank you.
And we have a question from Heather. In a follow-up to Michael's question, I believe he was talking about asset mapping. How are you able to map burned cars, data generated from the event, not standard shape files?
I think this might be a good follow-up with NDTVC if they want to mention how they mapped out the burn cars. I know it was there's a methodology and analysis, but yeah, since the data providers are, I think, online, I think it might be a good idea to maybe share.
Who else worked on this with me? Amy, do you want to comment on this?
Sure, but I also know Fernandez is here too, and I kind of went off of what she was doing, but we collected multiple shape files and aerial imagery, and we divided up the task, and we had to zoom in and make a shape file and plot every car that we saw. And it was very tedious process, and having to go in and confirm that we got everything, cars in the backyards or double cars, and some that you just maybe it was a car, but it was difficult. Do you have anything to add, Dave?
No, we tried to err on the side of certainty. So it had to be pretty clearly burned before we marked it as such. So, and there were some areas that had high densities of burned vehicles, like especially a parking lot or two, or I guess it might have been an impound lot actually. So we were very attentive to identifying the vehicles as best we could from the I guess it was, what was it, 12 quadrants of the satellite image.
Lee, what color should we be looking at for the burned vehicles on your map?
So on here on the top right, it shows the colors in the breakdown. So it looks like red are commercial or public parking, blue hotel parking, green were like the cars that were on the road, purple parked on the street, orange residential parking, and then schools for yellow. So yeah, this was very useful. I thought it was really cool that yeah, I was able to overlay this with imagery and be able to yeah, kind of see, especially before the cars started getting cleared out, kind of where they were located and where they were kind of clustered. So really sad to see, but it kind of paints a picture of where people were going, and even helped out teams that are kind of looking at the investigation and being able to kind of paint a picture and a timeline of the fire.
Thanks. This is Heather. Do you mind if I ask a follow-up to that? Sorry, I don't have a video on this computer that I'm on right now, but that's impressive. Really interesting layovers. I wondered, when you're doing all this, and I'm familiar, I think, with PDC like enough. I work with the Climate Adaptation Science Center with USGS, but who is it? Someone asking you in the moment of responding for something at that level, or someone is asking for that data now? How do you decide which layers are priorities and when to get them out there?
Yeah, so for this specifically, or this specific event, because we had somebody that was in the EOC, they were kind of wanting to get a picture of where specific assets were, where specific roadblocks are, for example, what are the restrictions on certain areas. So that information kind of based off the tempo of the how the EOC was running that day kind of dictated what information is needed for that common operating picture of the COP. So that information we were able to kind of track down the various different emergency functions within the EOC, and then gather that information and then geospatially plot it on the map. We did get requests or information for or people providing information to and we kind of went through and just kind of looked at what is useful. But as far as kind of what dictated what information is added to the system, it kind of just depended on the kind of that rhythm of what was going on in the EOC. I guess as far as like in a different kind of response, kind of something that we were kind of hands-on, really, we're there, at the EOC, but for my job specifically, we get requests from the Joint Operations Center, or the JOC at that INDOPACOM. So they want information on specifically what kind of assets that the DoD is being used and such. So being able to kind of convey that information to them, providing situational awareness of the types of operations that are happening. So that communication is kind of breaks down between how we work closely with the different commands, and then also working again with HIEMA, and then we have somebody that actually sits at HIEMA, and they were kind of coordinating other information that the state was interested in. So so that if that information was available in geospatial form, then we got it into the system.
And we're running close to the 1 o'clock time period, but I regret if I didn't recognize, we have our executive director, Dr. Carl Kim, and also our assistant director, Eric Yamashita they're actually listed under Rachel Beasy. Dr. Kim, did you want to share any words or any insights or have any questions for Kalei?
I think you're muted.
Yeah, they're muted.
There you go. Yeah, first I want to thank you, for the really excellent presentation. Actually, I'm on Maui today. I'll be meeting with a Pacific Disaster Center with Ray and Aaron. We have another project that we've received funding on. It's with the Federal Railway Administration, looking at wildfire risk of primarily the Class 1 railways. And so this is an ongoing problem, not just in Hawaii, but I think throughout the US and many other places. And so, and part of what we have to do is to work together to share data, collect data, to evaluate the data. But I also think that what we have to do is develop different types of applications for being able to understand the risk, but also how we can manage and mitigate the hazards associated with, and it's a combination of factors. I mean, it is the fire, but there was also very high winds, there were drought conditions. There are also challenges with managing the infrastructure, particularly with such a large event. And so there's lots of work that needs to be done. And so thank you for your excellent presentation. We will continue to try to work together. Our emphasis is, again, on training and research to support the training and development of capabilities. And so I've appreciated the partnerships that we've had, and we will continue to work together. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. Kung, any closing words?
I would like to thank everyone that came today, and I would like to thank Kalei for coming in and speaking on behalf of Adam. And this was such an insightful presentation to such a significant event that will be in the recovery process for many years and in the hearts of Hawaii residents and locals. And this information is important to everyone who is in the field of disaster management and emergency management. And I would like to invite everyone to join in and keep on researching and sharing the knowledge of this devastating event and for future events too. And this will be significant as climate change impacts increase in the future. Stay tuned for our next month's third Thursday. More information will be coming up soon. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining in today. Mahalo.